Hey, what's up guys? Christian here for KRISCOART'S Productions. Now the month of March has passed. Unfortunately, the Marching Dead is over. And if you missed a video or two of the Marching Dead, links over here and in the description, so you guys can check that out. So last month for the Marching Dead, we covered how to do zombie effects, closely related to The Walking Dead. So this month, just to switch it up a little bit, I'm thinking of doing visual effects related to cars. So this month's theme is cars VFX. We'll call it that. And pretty much we'll cover anything from car chases to breaking into a car by smashing the window, or even a body just slamming onto a car like in today's video. So that's exactly what we're going to be breaking down in today's video. Also, before we begin, I really want to thank you guys for helping me reach 3,000 subscribers and over 150,000 views. That is insane. I still can't believe it that many of you guys are actually watching my videos. That to me is just unbelievable. So as a thank you, like I mentioned in the last video of Marching Dead, I'm releasing a free pack, so you guys can check that out as well. I'll post a link in the description. Any video that I mention, link in the description. And anything that you see in the pack, you can actually learn to do yourself from scratch in this video tutorial right here. So check that out. You don't have to be limited to the ones that I'm giving you. You can literally create as many as you want and go crazy with that. So check that out. Also, as promised, every 1,000 subscribers, I'm releasing a free royalty-free track that has Creative Commons, so which means you can use it for your YouTube videos, use it for commercial projects. Go crazy, just give me credit, I would really appreciate that. But other than that, use it for whatever. Alright, enough of my usual rambling, let's actually get into today's video. So let's jump into After Effects and let's get started. Alright guys, so I went ahead and color coded everything in After Effects because as you can see, we have a ton of layers over here, so it can get easily confusing. I'm usually very unorganized, but when it becomes this big of a project file, it's always good to do that. So we're gonna need a clean plate, and then we have our middle ground layers, which is the car, the body, the wheels. Notice that those are all separate from each other. And then finally we just have the foreground elements, which is just the actors. It is very important to have all those layers separate from each other, including the body. The body is going to be its own separate layer as well, even though it is laying on the actual car. So let's take a look at the footage that we're going to need. We're going to need just a clean plate. Then you can park the car, and I have the guy on it queued to pretend to drop on it. And we'll go over how to do that part of the effect. And then finally we have our foreground layers, which is just the actors reacting to the body slamming onto the car. And that's really all the footage that you need. Also notice that the windows were up in one of the shots and they were down in the other one. And we're going to need both of those references in order to have the windows explode out and so that you can see the background properly. As you can see, I had to rotoscope everything out and it was just a nightmare. So bring out a portable green screen on location. I mean, sometimes I even have to carry this thing on location. This is the only green screen I have, but do whatever you can because rotoscoping for this effect will be hell. I mean, rotoscoping in general is just a pain in the butt, so if you can avoid it, use a green screen. Alright, so the first part that we're going to break down is how to do the guy falling onto the car. And now the cool thing about this effect is that it can be used for several different effects that you see in movies and other YouTubers. I even had an older video that used these same techniques to create this effect. So you can do the Superman or Hancock landing. So just apply these simple techniques and you can pull off a bunch of effects. Alright, so let's take a look at pretty much what we're dealing with everything being color coded. So you see a frozen frame of the guy falling to his death, and then it just switches to the actual rotoscoped body, which I color coded blue. And then you have your foreground elements reacting, including that bouquet of roses just flying in the air. Also notice that the wheels are a separate layer from the actual car. And then in the background, you just have the clean plate. So again, the guy falling on the car, although he was laying on it, I had to mask him out separately because the car actually has its own animation and then the frame of it bends. So I had to rotoscope each individual limb of him out. You can rotoscope him however you want. I usually just make a separate mask for each limb. But now you can see that we have a frozen frame of the guy falling to his death. And all that is just really just... Actually, let me just color code that blue. Okay, so all this is just a frozen frame from right before he just pretends to fall, and then I just animated the position coming into frame and added motion blur to make it look nice. As you can see, it just cuts off right before the actual layer of him pretending to just flap his arms out like he just hit the car. So as soon as that kicks in, the frozen frame layer ends. So you can see that right here, and you can see that the frozen frame goes into the actual clip. I also added a puppet tool effect in the frozen frame just to have his leg kind of stretch out when he's in midair. It's very almost like unnoticeable, but little details like that count. Also, you can notice that all of those layers are parented to a null object, and if I can find that null object, I can show you what that does. It pretty much just follows the animation of the car that we'll get into later on, but the car has kind of a bounce to it, and we want every layer, including later on when we add the blood and everything, we want that to follow the movement of the car. So, just creating a null object that has that same position, you can literally, once you make the animation of the car, you can copy and paste the keyframes from that to the null object and just parent everything that is supposed to look like it's actually attached to the car to that null object. So that's just one way to save a lot of time instead of just doing that individually to each part. So this is what we have so far. It's looking pretty good. Now obviously we have to get into the animating and bending of the car part, but our guy is looking pretty good right now. The animation part of it at least is looking pretty decent. As you can see, I added some blood effect. It's up to you. The way you do it is just duplicate the layer that has that car animation, and you use it as a mask for those blood layers. So that's pretty easy. And then again, parent them to the null object so that they follow that same type of animation. That's pretty much all that's involved into any kind of texture that you want to overlay on the car, whether it's blood splatters, or anything of that nature. If they overlap with any of the window area, just create a mask for them and you should be fine with that. Alright, so let's move on to the actual animation part of the car. Now you can notice that I have the wheels separated from the actual body of the car because we don't want the whole thing to compress down. Having the wheels as a separate layer, it kind of adds that illusion of the car suspension being compressed under the weight of the suicidal guy falling on top of the car. Also, you notice the frame bending a little bit, and all I did for that is just I added the puppet tool effect, and I just added some points around the top part of the car, and I animated them compressing down as the body smashed onto the car. Now, before we move on to animating the position and rotation of the car, make sure your anchor point of the body is set around the center of the front tire of your car. Now that is if the body is falling closer to the back side of your car. If you want to do the opposite, if it's falling more towards the hood of the car, the front part of the car. And the reason why that is, it'll just help your animation out. Over here you can see my my keyframes that I did for the animation. I just apply the same principles of just kind of motion graphics of animating those texts and titles. As a matter of fact, you've actually seen these type of keyframes, this type of animation, even in this video tutorial. Whenever I have those boxes pop up that are referencing back to other videos that I've made, they all have that same type of bounce look to that. And the trick to it all is just pretty much you over exaggerate the animation on the second keyframe, then you bring it back with the third keyframe, then you slightly exaggerate the motion in the opposite direction. In this case, our position, instead of exaggerating down, it goes back up a little bit and it rotates up a little bit, and then the final keyframe, you let it set to its final resting place. Alright, so we're close to the end. All we need is just a little bit of details just to sell the effect even further. You can see the glass shattering and a little bit of dust. So we'll get into that right now. Alright, so the very final step of it all is just to add a little bit of those details that help make the effect a little bit more convincing. Now the dust waves are really subtle in the final video, and it's just to add a little bit more of that impact. So I added several dust waves on the bottom of the whole thing, but I also added a smaller dust wave on the roof of the car when the body makes contact with the car. I feel like this adds a little bit more power to the impact. Also, you see that there's glass shooting out. These are just simply elements from Action Essentials 2 of just glass, and I masked it out to adapt to the shape of the car. But another thing that I did is I duplicated a layer of the windows being up. So remember, that's why I said in the beginning to have a clip of the car with the windows up. And then I spliced a layer of just the windows, and for the second part of it, when the body makes contact with the car, I applied an effect called Shatter, and I just put one of the presets of glass. That was pretty much it as far as the details. Alright guys, that is it for this week. Also, if you haven't noticed, I posted a video on Monday. It's something new, something I want to try out for a little bit. It's called Music Mondays. It's where I post one of my EDM or dubstep tracks every Monday. It's not really music, but some people considerate music, so check it out, I guess. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Everything that I talked about, any video I mentioned is in the description. Again, by checking those out, you're helping me grow even more. I still can't believe I'm over 150,000 views and I've gained 3,000 subscribers. I couldn't have done this without your help. I'm just a guy in front of a green screen with a camera. You guys are making it happen out there by sharing the video, liking it, and just subscribing. Everything counts, and I'm really, really appreciative of that. So I'm not going to ramble off, but just know that I'm really thankful for what you're doing. Anyways, my name is Chris Trini for KRISCOART Productions, and I'll see you next time.
I've seen it like 15 times, and I literally sent it to all kinds of selection committee members for other festivals that I know, and said, watch this short, and all of them flipped out because the ending, and I can't stop laughing every time I see the ending of the short, and I know it's going to happen like a lot. I've watched it so many times. So, it's funny. What's wrong with you, man? Seriously. I mean, is it a true story?
Well, inspired by issues, minus the falling apart.
So awkward, uncomfortable, where you give this girl flowers?
Yeah, it kind of shows how much I like Valentine's Day. That much.
I know, and I got it right after Valentine's Day, and I was like, man, why didn't you send this to me like 3 weeks ago? Because I would have totaled, but apparently you only like finished it like the day before. So who thought the dead guy was going to fall out of the sky? Who was actively waiting for something to happen in the short? That's the part of it that interested me. I was like, okay. And then at about a minute and 10 seconds, it becomes uncomfortable as the viewer to continue to watch the people stare at each other, which I think is kind of the perfect moment for someone to just commit suicide, right, on the camera. But my favorite thing, and my table pointed it out as well, is the guy gets pissed and throws his hat down on the ground. So, I mean, thanks. I mean, did you shoot with like no crew and like on your street corner?
Yeah, really it was just like 3-4 people. He was actually our camo, and it was just all in one day. Originally supposed to be one short clip just to show that effect, because I make tutorials showing how to do it, so it was just supposed to be that, and then kind of decided to expand it and add a little story to it. So.
Awesome. Well, thanks for bringing it, man. I'm glad I got to play it.
Thank you.
So,